The wrench slipped again. My knuckles scraped raw against the corroded cooling manifold, and I muttered every curse word I could remember from my years in the Colonial Marines. The salvaged freighter engine, sprawled across my workbench, wasn't cooperating, typical for Tarsus Station equipment. Everything here ran on borrowed time and sheer stubbornness. I'm Marcus Webb, 32 years old, 6 years out of military service, and currently losing an argument with a machine that should have been recycled a decade ago. Tarsus Station wasn't anyone's first choice for settling down. It orbited a dying gas giant in a system so far from the core worlds that supply ships came quarterly, if we were lucky. The station itself was a patchwork of modules bolted together over centuries, leaking atmosphere in a dozen places, held together by hope and improvisation. I'd ended up here, after my discharge, looking for somewhere quiet to disappear. My repair shop occupied a corner of the industrial sector, wedged between a hydroponics bay that smelled like fertilizer and a bar that doubled as a black market hub. The rent was cheap because the previous tenant had died in an airlock malfunction. Nobody asked too many questions on Tarsus, which suited me fine. I wiped grease off my hands and reached for my coffee mug. Cold, naturally. On this station, even simple pleasures gave up before you did. That's when I heard it. Not a scream, exactly. More like the sharp intake of breath that comes right before terror finds its voice. Years of military training kicked in without asking permission. My body moved while my brain was still processing, grabbing the plasma cutter from my bench. Not the best weapon, but it would do. I pushed through the maintenance corridor that connected my shop to the station's main accessway. The dim lighting flickered as usual, casting shadows that made everything look like a threat. 3 figures had someone cornered near the ventilation junction. The attackers wore the dark uniforms of the Sovereignty Guard, the military arm of the Krythian Empire. I recognized the insignia immediately, a silver talon clutching a world. Bad news in any language. Their weapons were drawn, energy rifles that could cut through bulkheads. The person they'd cornered pressed against the wall, hands raised but not in surrender. More like preparation. Even in the poor light, I could see she was young, maybe early 20s, with the distinctive features of Krythian nobility. Pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer, silver hair that moved like it had its own gravity, eyes the color of deep space filled with stars. She wore simple clothes, too simple for someone who carried herself like royalty. Behind her, trying to make herself invisible against the wall, was a child. Maybe 10 years old, same coloring as the woman, but smaller, frailer, eyes wide with the kind of fear that never completely leaves. The lead guard spoke in Krythian, a language I'd picked up during my service. Years. My translator implant filled in the gaps. Princess Lyara, you have defied the Emperor's command. The girl must be returned for proper evaluation. She's my sister. The woman's voice didn't shake, impressive given 3 guns pointed at her. You won't touch her. Then you both face execution for treason against the crown. I didn't know these people. Didn't know what evaluation meant in this context, though I could guess, based on the terror in that child's eyes. But I'd spent enough years in uniform to recognize state-sanctioned cruelty when I saw it. The Empire had a reputation. Children who were different, who didn't fit their rigid standards, disappeared into facilities and never came out. I'd seen the reports, the ones they tried to bury. Genetic cleansing, they called it. making the species pure. I called it something else. The plasma cutter hummed to life in my hand. The nearest guard turned toward the sound, which was his last mistake. The superheated beam caught him across the chest before he could bring his rifle around. He dropped without a sound. His companions spun toward me, and in that split second of confusion, the woman moved. She was fast, faster than any human could be. Her hand blurred, and suddenly she held a blade I hadn't seen her carrying. The second guard's throat opened in a spray of purple blood before he could fire. The third guard got his shot off, but she'd already moved. The energy bolt scorched the wall where she'd been standing. I hit him with the plasma cutter while he was tracking her movement. 3 guards down in less than 10 seconds. The woman stood in the corridor, blade dripping, breathing hard but controlled. She looked at me with those impossible eyes, calculating, measuring, deciding if I was another threat. Follow me. I didn't wait for agreement. The station's security would respond to weapons fire within minutes, and I had no interest in explaining dead sovereignty guards to anyone. I grabbed the child's hand. She flinched but didn't resist. We ran through cargo bays and service ladders into the lower levels where the original station hull still existed, a maze of passages that predated the newer modules. The woman kept pace, despite the fact she'd just killed 2 people. The child ran silently, not crying, not speaking, just moving. Behind us, I heard shouting, boots on metal decking, the systematic search pattern of trained soldiers. 2 hours of navigating passages that grew progressively narrower and darker. The woman never complained. The child never slowed down. I led them through sections that technically didn't have life support anymore, but somehow maintained atmosphere anyway. Past abandoned living quarters and storage bays, filled with equipment from colonies that no longer existed. We emerged in a section of the station I'd discovered during my first year here, an old observation deck that had been sealed off after a meteor strike damaged the viewports. I'd repaired the seals myself, turned it into a backup workshop, somewhere to go when my official space felt too public. The woman lowered the child to the deck and immediately checked her over, hands moving with practiced efficiency, looking for injuries. The girl grabbed her sister's arms, held on like she was afraid of falling. Lyara, I'm okay. The woman, Lyara apparently, pulled the child close. Her shoulders shook slightly, the first sign of vulnerability she'd shown. I secured the entrance, activated the magnetic locks I'd installed, and turned to face them. The woman looked up at me, composure restored, eyes sharp and evaluating. Why did you help us, human? I shrugged. Didn't like the odds. 3 armed soldiers against 2 unarmed people, one of them a kid. Seemed unfair. You don't know who we are. I know enough. I pulled out a med kit from the storage locker. You're bleeding. She looked down at her arm, where a graze from the energy bolt had burned through her sleeve. Minor wound, but it needed treatment. The child watched me with those enormous eyes as I approached. I moved slowly, hands visible, the way you approach anything frightened. Let me see. Lyara extended her arm, wary but accepting. The burn wasn't deep, but Krythian physiology ran different than human. I used the universal treatment gel, stuff that worked on most oxygen-breathing species. Her skin felt cool under my fingers, not cold, but noticeably different from human temperature. The child spoke for the first time, her voice small and careful. Are you going to hurt us? I looked at her, this small being who'd already learned that adults were dangerous. "No, I'm going to help you." "Why?" "Because someone should." Her eyes searched my face, looking for the lie, the betrayal she'd learned to expect. She didn't find it. I finished treating Lyara's wound and sat back. The woman studied me like I was a puzzle with missing pieces. "What's your name, human?" "Marcus Webb." "And yours?" "You already heard it. Princess Lyara Vel'Krythia, third heir to the Radiant Throne." She said it without pride or shame, just stating fact. "And this is my sister, Sera." The child nodded slightly, still clinging to Lyara. I processed this information. A princess of the Krythian Empire, one of the most powerful civilizations in known space, hiding in the lower decks of a forgotten station with a child the Empire wanted dead. This was going to complicate my life considerably. "You're in serious trouble." Lyara's laugh was bitter. "Yes, I've noticed. The Sovereignty Guard will search the entire station. They have authority to lock down everything, scan every section. Your hiding spot won't stay secret long." "I know. Then why are we here instead of running?" "Because you need supplies, information, and time to plan. You ran straight into a trap without thinking past the next 5 minutes." Anger flashed in her eyes. I was thinking about keeping my sister alive. I raised my hands, not criticizing, just observing. If you want to survive long term, you need to be smarter than reactive. "And you're offering to help us be smarter?" "I'm offering you a place to catch your breath and figure out your next move. After that, up to you." Silence filled the space. Sera whispered something in Krythian, too quiet for my implant to catch. Lyara answered in the same language, a brief exchange. Then she looked at me. "We'll stay, for now." "Good." I stood and moved to the storage locker. "I've got ration packs and water. Not fancy, but it'll keep you fed. There's a sanitation unit through that door. It works most of the time. You should rest." Lyara didn't move. "Why are you doing this?" "We're strangers. You're fugitives. Helping us makes you an accomplice to treason against the Empire." I met her eyes. Maybe I don't think much of empires that hunt children. She stared at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Something shifted in her expression, like she was seeing me for the first time. "Thank you, Marcus Webb. Don't thank me yet." I grabbed my tool bag. I need to get back to my shop before someone notices I'm gone. "You two stay here. Don't make noise. Don't touch anything that looks important. I'll be back in a few hours with real food and information." "What kind of information?" "Whether the guard is still on the station. Whether they've figured out who helped you. Whether we have time to plan or need to run immediately." Lyara stood, moved closer. Her presence was commanding despite the situation. "If you're caught helping us, they'll execute you." "Probably. Then why risk it?" I looked at Sera, still huddled against the wall, exhausted and terrified. "Because I've seen what happens when good people do nothing. Spent too many years following orders I knew were wrong. Not doing that anymore." I headed for the door, then paused. "One more thing. If this goes bad, if I don't come back, there's an emergency kit in that locker. Supplies, credits, forged identification chips, enough to get you off station and maybe to the outer colonies, where the Empire's reach is weaker." Lyara's voice stopped me. "Marcus?" I turned. She looked at me with those impossible starlit eyes. "I won't forget this." I nodded and left. The station buzzed with activity when I returned to the main levels. Sovereignty guards everywhere, checking identification, scanning cargo, questioning residents. I kept my head down and my pace casual, just another mechanic heading back to work. My shop looked untouched when I arrived, but I wasn't taking chances. I activated my security scanner, checked for bugs, monitoring devices, anything that would indicate unwanted attention. Clean, for now. I pulled up the station's public information network on my terminal. The official story was already circulating. Terrorist attack in Sector 7. 3 sovereignty guards killed by unknown assailants. Station lockdown in effect until suspects apprehended. Suspects described as 2 Krythian females, 1 adult, 1 juvenile. Armed and extremely dangerous. Reward offered for information leading to capture. The amount made me whistle. Someone really wanted them back. I dug deeper, using access codes I'd kept from my military days, codes that technically I shouldn't still have. The restricted channels told a different story. Princess Lyara Vel'Krythia, wanted for abduction of a royal minor. The child Sera, designated for mandatory genetic correction due to neural abnormalities. Translation: the kid was different, and the Empire wanted to fix her. I'd seen their correction facilities during my service. Sterile white rooms where children went in and either came out broken or didn't come out at all. The Empire called it compassion. I called it butchery. My terminal chimed. Incoming message. Encrypted, using a protocol I recognized. Military intelligence. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won. The message was brief. Webb, we know you're on Tarsus. We know what you did in Sector 7. Stand down. Surrender the targets. This doesn't concern you. It was signed by Commander Vrekas, my former CO. Someone I'd once respected before I learned what the Empire really did in the shadows. I deleted the message without responding. 3 hours later, I made my way back to the hidden observation deck, carrying supplies. Real food, not rations. Medical supplies. A portable data pad with offline maps of the station and surrounding space. Clean clothes that might actually fit them. Lyara had the door open before I could knock, blade in hand, ready. She relaxed when she saw it was me. You're careful. I try to stay alive. It's a hobby. I set the supplies down. Stations locked tight. Guards everywhere. They're scanning every section systematically. How long do we have? Maybe 2 days before they reach the lower levels. After that, this hiding spot becomes a trap. Sera emerged from the back room, looking slightly better after rest. She watched me with cautious curiosity as I unpacked the food. Real protein synthesizers, not rations. Lyara raised an eyebrow. This is expensive. Consider it an investment in not getting killed for harboring fugitives. I handed Sera a container. The girl took it carefully, like she expected it to be taken away. She looked to Lyara for permission before opening it. The princess nodded. It's safe, little star. Sera ate slowly, precisely, the way someone eats when they've learned food isn't guaranteed. I tried not to stare, but failed. Lyara noticed. She's been running for 6 months. Before that, she was in a medical facility for evaluation. They didn't feed her much. Evaluation. The word tasted bitter. What's wrong with her that needs correcting? Lyara's expression hardened. Nothing. She's perfect exactly as she is. The Empire disagrees. The Empire sees neural patterns that don't match standard Krythian development. They classify it as a defect requiring intervention. What does that mean in normal language? Sera processes information differently. She sees patterns others miss, makes connections that seem impossible, solves problems in ways that shouldn't work but do. To the Empire, anything outside their definition of normal is a threat. I looked at the kid. So she's smart, and they want to cut that out of her? They want to make her compliant, predictable, like everyone else. Lyara's voice carried years of barely controlled rage. I was there when they first evaluated her, watched them run their tests, saw the results, heard them discuss correction procedures like they were talking about fixing a machine. That's when I took her and ran. 6 months of running. 6 months of the most powerful empire in known space, hunting a woman and a child. The fact they were still alive said something about Lyara's capabilities. You must have been military, Royal Guard. Lyara sat across from me. Captain, Special Operations, trained since childhood to protect the royal family. Ironic, given I'm now classified as a traitor. What changed? Sera. Lyara looked at her sister with something that transcended simple affection. When she was born, I was already deep in the Guard, already shaped into what they wanted me to be. A weapon, a tool, loyal only to the throne. Then I held her for the first time, and something broke. Or maybe something finally started working right. She was 3 when they first flagged her development as abnormal. 5 when they mandated intervention. I attended every evaluation, watched them categorize my sister, like she was a specimen instead of a person. The final order came 6 months ago. Immediate correction, no exceptions, no appeals. I looked at Sera, still eating quietly, listening but not reacting. She'd heard this story before. So you grabbed her and ran. I grabbed her and fought. Killed 4 doctors, 6 guards, destroyed their research facility. Then I ran. Lyara's smile was cold. They've been chasing us ever since. That explains the bounty on your head. It's not just about Sera anymore. I embarrassed them, proved their security could be breached, made them look weak. Now it's about making an example. I processed this. A trained royal guard with a personal vendetta and nothing to lose. The Empire's worst nightmare. Why come to Tarsus? Why not head for the outer colonies, where their reach is limited? I tried. Lyara's expression darkened. 3 times I got Sera to a transport heading for free space. 3 times they found us before we could board. They have resources I can't match. Informants everywhere. Technology that tracks us no matter how careful I am. So I changed tactics. Started moving toward the core instead of away from it. Hiding in their own territory where they'd least expect us. Risky strategy. It was working until those guards recognized me in the market. Pure bad luck. Or maybe they're better at tracking than you thought. I pulled out the datapad. Either way, we need a new plan. Staying here isn't an option. Running blindly isn't working. What do you suggest? Lyara leaned forward, interested despite herself. I suggest we stop running and start fighting. Her eyes narrowed. Explain. I activated the datapad, pulling up files I'd compiled over the past few hours. The Empire wants you because you're a symbol of defiance. Every day you're free, you prove they're not invincible. That makes them desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. What kind of mistakes? The kind we can exploit. I brought up a schematic of the station. Tarsus is officially independent, but the Empire has significant influence here. They station guards, maintain surveillance, control most of the shipping routes. But there's one thing they don't control. I highlighted a section of the lower docks, the smuggler networks. Lyara studied the display. Smugglers won't help us out of kindness. They'll sell us to whoever pays most. Not if we give them something more valuable than the bounty. What could possibly be more valuable? Information. I pulled up the encrypted files I'd accessed earlier. During my time in military intelligence, I collected data. Insurance, I called it. Details about Empire operations, corruption, black sites, things they'd prefer, stayed buried. Some of that information directly impacts the smuggling routes through this sector. We offer them data that protects their operations in exchange for passage. Lyara looked skeptical. Why haven't you used this information before? Because using it paints a target on my back. Once I reveal I have it, the Empire will come for me with everything they have. But if we're already targets, might as well make it count. Sera spoke up, her voice quiet but clear. They'll kill you for helping us. The girl looked at me with those two old eyes. You should let us go. Save yourself. I met her gaze. Not how I operate, kid. Besides, I'm tired of the Empire thinking they can do whatever they want. Maybe it's time someone pushed back. Lyara watched me carefully. You understand what you're proposing? Once we make this move, there's no going back. You'll be marked as a traitor, hunted just like us. Already am. I helped you escape, killed their guards. I crossed that line hours ago. She was quiet for a moment. Then why not just turn us in? Collect the bounty? Tell them you were gathering intelligence? Save yourself. I could have. Would have been smart. But smart isn't always right. I stood and moved to the viewport. Out there, the gas giant rotated slowly, bands of color swirling in patterns that had existed for millions of years. The Empire thinks they own everything, control everything. They think beings are just resources, to be managed, corrected, eliminated if they don't fit the proper categories. I'm sick of it. Lyara stood beside me. You sound like you have personal experience with their methods. I do. Lost my whole squad because some Empire administrator decided our mission wasn't strategically valuable anymore. Left us stranded on a hostile world, erased our existence from official records. I was the only one who made it out. Took me 2 years to get back to civilization. Another year to realize the Empire I'd served didn't deserve loyalty, so I walked away. Her hand touched my shoulder briefly. I'm sorry. Don't be. Made me who I am. I turned back to face her. Point is, I know what they're capable of. I know how they operate. And I know their weaknesses. We can use that. How? First, we need to contact the smugglers. I know someone who can arrange a meeting, someone who owes me favors. We offer the information exchange, secure passage off station. Where would we go? I pulled up a star map. There's a colony in the outer reaches, New Havens. It's technically independent, far enough from the core that Empire authority is limited. They have strict asylum laws, won't extradite refugees without overwhelming evidence of actual crimes. Lyara studied the map. That's 3 weeks of travel. 3 weeks the Empire will be hunting us, which is why we don't run in a straight line. I traced a route through multiple systems. We make stops, change ships, use false identities, stay ahead of their search pattern. It'll take longer, maybe 2 months total, but it's safer. Sera moved closer to look at the map. Her small finger traced the route I'd outlined. This path goes through the Devros Nebula. Navigation sensors don't work well there. Exactly. I looked at the kid with new respect. You know your stellar geography. I like maps. Sera said it simply, like it was the most natural thing in the world. They help me understand where things are, how they connect. See patterns. The neural abnormality, the Empire wanted to correct. The girl was probably smarter than half their command staff. Lyara pulled her sister close. This plan requires significant resources: ships, documentation, bribes. I have some credits saved, but not enough for this. I've got credits. Not a fortune, but enough to get started. The information we're trading should cover the rest. You'd spend your savings on us? Why does everyone keep asking me that? I looked between them. Maybe I just don't like bullies. Maybe I see someone fighting for her sister, and respect that. Maybe I'm tired of sitting on the sidelines while the powerful crush the powerless. Pick whichever reason makes you comfortable. Lyara held my gaze. You're a strange man, Marcus Webb. So I've been told. When do we make contact with the smugglers? Tonight. There's a cargo transfer scheduled in the lower docks. My contact will be there. We arrange a meeting, make our pitch, secure transport. If they agree, we could be off station within 48 hours. And if they don't agree, then we improvise. I've gotten good at that. The rest of the day passed in preparation. I returned to my shop, gathered supplies, converted assets to untraceable credit chips. The station remained locked down, guards everywhere, the search continuing systematically. I monitored their communications, tracked their progress. They were thorough but predictable. Military thinking, linear search patterns. They'd reach the lower levels within 36 hours. We'd be gone by then, if everything worked. Evening came. I made my way back to the observation deck one final time before the meeting. Lyara was ready when I arrived, dressed in dark clothes I'd brought earlier, weapons concealed but accessible. Sera sat on the floor, surrounded by data pads, studying maps and system charts with intense concentration. The kid looked up when I entered. I found 3 alternate routes through the Devros Nebula. This one avoids most of the ionic interference. She pointed to a path I hadn't considered. Smart. I'll add it to the options. You're coming with us? To the meeting? No. Lyara stood, her voice firm. Sera stays here, where it's safe. The girl's face fell, but she didn't argue. I knelt beside her. We'll be back in a few hours. Keep the door locked. Don't open it for anyone except us. How will I know it's really you? Good question. I thought for a moment. When we knock, we'll use a pattern. 3 quick, 2 slow, 1 quick. Can you remember that? Sera nodded solemnly. 3 quick, 2 slow, 1 quick. Perfect. And if anyone else tries to get in? She pulled a small blade from her sleeve, the movement practiced. I know how to protect myself. Of course you do. Lyara had taught her well. We left through the maintenance corridors, moving carefully through sections I'd mapped over years of exploration. The lower docks occupied the oldest part of the station, sections that had been built first and mostly forgotten as newer modules were added above. The lighting was poor, gravity generators inconsistent, atmosphere recyclers running on backup systems that groaned with age. Perfect territory for people who wanted to avoid official attention. My contact was named Jax, a Viridian trader who'd been running questionable cargo through this sector for decades. I'd fixed his ship's drive system 2 years ago, when no one else would touch it. He remembered favors. We found him in Bay 17, overseeing the transfer of containers that definitely weren't marked correctly. Viridians were tall, 4-armed, with scaled skin that shifted colors based on mood. Jax's scales showed cautious yellow when he saw us approaching. Webb, didn't expect to see you during a lockdown. His voice rumbled like distant thunder, especially with company. Jax, this is Lyara. We need to talk. His scales flickered orange. Talking during Empire lockdowns is dangerous. This won't take long. We need passage off station. For two people the Empire is actively hunting? His scales shifted to red. That's not talking, that's suicide. I pulled out a data chip. We can pay. Not with credits. With this. What's on it? Information about Empire shipping routes, inspection schedules, customs protocols, surveillance blind spots. Everything you'd need to move cargo through this sector without interference for the next 6 months. Jax's scales flickered between colors. Where did you get this? Sources. Is it legitimate? Lyara stepped forward. I can verify its authenticity. I spent 10 years in Empire military intelligence. The data is real. Jax studied her carefully. You're the princess they're looking for, the one who stole a royal child. I rescued my sister from torture. Call it what you want. His scales settled into thoughtful purple. This data, if it's real, would be worth considerable money. But harboring you carries considerable risk. Risk you can mitigate with the same information. You'll know where the Empire is looking, where they're not, how to stay invisible. Silence stretched between us. Jax's scales cycled through colors as he calculated odds, risks, profits. Finally, they settled on green. I can get you off station, but not directly to your destination. Too obvious. Where can you take us? There's a freight run to the mining colonies in the Korvax system. 3 days travel. From there, you transfer to another ship. Continue on your own. That works. I looked at Lyara. She nodded. What's your price? The data chip, plus 50,000 credits, plus one more thing. What? Jax's expression was unreadable. When you reach safety, when this is over, you tell people what the Empire really does. Tell them about the correction facilities, the children who disappear, the lies they spread. Someone with your credentials, your background, people might actually listen. Lyara studied him. You've lost someone to their system. My daughter. Jax's scales dimmed to dark blue. 15 years ago. They said she was defective, needed intervention. I believed them, trusted their doctors, their promises. She never came home. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't bring her back, but maybe stopping them from doing it to others, that means something. Lyara extended her hand. You have my word. When we're safe, I'll speak. I'll tell everyone what they do in the shadows. Jax gripped her hand with 2 of his forearms. Then we have an agreement. The ship leaves in 30 hours. Bay 23. Be here at midnight. We'll get you aboard before the Empire knows you're gone. Thank you. Not necessary. Just keep your promise. We left the docks and headed back toward the observation deck. Lyara was quiet, processing. That was easier than expected. Don't celebrate yet. Getting off station is just the first step. We still have to survive the journey, avoid detection, reach New Havens without the Empire catching us. But it's possible now. Before, we were just running. Now we have a plan. I glanced at her. You really going to speak out when this is over? If I survive, yes. The Empire's correction program needs to end. Too many families destroyed. Too many children erased. Because they don't fit narrow definitions of normal. She paused. Your friend Jax, he's not alone. Thousands of parents have lost children to that system. Someone needs to stand against it. Could get you killed. Living on the run will kill us eventually anyway. At least, this way, Sera's suffering might mean something. Might save others like her. We reached the observation deck. I knocked the pattern. 3 quick, 2 slow, 1 quick. The door opened immediately. Sera stood there, blade ready, then relaxed when she saw us. "Everything okay?" "Everything's good." I stepped inside. "We have transport off station. We leave tomorrow night." The girl's face showed relief and fear mixed together. "Where will we go?" "Far away. Somewhere safe." I knelt to her level. "Somewhere you can just be a kid instead of constantly hiding." Sera looked uncertain. "I don't remember what that's like." "You'll learn. Trust me." The rest of the night passed in preparation. I gathered the last supplies we'd need, transferred credits to secure chips, compiled the data for Jax. Lyara maintained weapons, planned contingencies, prepared for every scenario she could imagine. Sera studied the star maps, memorizing routes, calculating distances, her mind always working. Around midnight, exhaustion caught up with all of us. Sera fell asleep on the cot, wrapped in a thermal blanket. Lyara sat by the viewport, staring at the stars. I joined her, thinking about tomorrow, thinking about everything. She didn't look at me. 6 months ago, I was a decorated officer, loyal to the crown, certain of my purpose. Now I'm a fugitive, helping plan escape routes with a human mechanic I met yesterday. Life changes fast. It does. She turned to face me. "Why are you really doing this, Marcus?" "The truth. Because the Empire took everything from me once. My squad, my faith in the system, my belief that authority deserved respect. I can't get that back. But I can make sure they don't take everything from you and Sera. That has to be enough." Morning came with alarms blaring through the station. Emergency alerts, not the usual lockdown notices. Something had changed. I accessed the public network on my datapad. The news was worse than expected. Empire reinforcements had arrived, a full battle cruiser now in orbit. Commander Vel'Krythia himself was on station, taking personal command of the search. They were tearing through every section, no longer bothering with subtlety. Estimated time before they reached our location, maybe 12 hours. We need to move now. I looked at Lyara and Sera. The ship doesn't leave until midnight. We can't stay here that long. Lyara checked her weapons. "Where do we go?" "The docks." "We hide near Bay 23. Stay mobile. Avoid the search teams. Once night falls, we board and get out. Risky. Everything about this is risky. At least this way we're close to our exit." We gathered our supplies quickly, efficiently. Sera packed her data pads with the careful precision of someone who'd learned to travel light. She looked scared, but determined. I led them through maintenance corridors I'd memorized, routes that avoided main passages and surveillance points. Behind us, distantly, I could hear the search teams. Systematic, thorough, closing in. The lower docks were more crowded than usual. Other people had the same idea, getting close to potential escape. Routes, smugglers, refugees, anyone with reason to avoid Empire attention. We blended into the crowd, just 3 more beings trying to disappear. Bay 23 wasn't far, but we couldn't approach it directly. Too obvious. Instead, I found us a storage alcove with sight lines to multiple exits. We settled in to wait. Hours crawled past. Sera dozed against Lyara's shoulder, exhausted despite her attempts to stay alert. Lyara remained awake, eyes constantly scanning for threats. I monitored communications on my military band receiver, listening to search team chatter. They were close, very close. Commander Vel'Krythia was directing operations personally, his voice cold and precise over the channels. The princess is cornered. She knows it. She'll try for the docks, double patrols on all bays. No ships launch without my authorization. I looked at Lyara. She'd heard it too. They know our plan. Not specifically, but they've guessed the general idea. Can Jax still get us out? If we reach the ship, maybe. But getting to Bay 23 just became much harder. I studied the dock layout on my pad. There were service tunnels that ran beneath the bays, maintenance access for repair crews, tight spaces, poorly lit, but they'd avoid the main patrols. We use the tunnels. Lyara looked doubtful. If they've thought about the docks, they've thought about the tunnels. Probably. But we're out of good options. Evening approached. The crowds in the docks thinned as people found hiding spots or gave up and returned to their quarters. We prepared to move. I'll go first. Make sure the tunnel entrance is clear. You follow with Sera. Stay close. If something happens, if we get separated, the rendezvous point is Bay 23 at midnight. No matter what. Lyara gripped my arm. Marcus, if this goes wrong, if I don't make it, promise me you'll get Sera to safety. Don't talk like that. Promise me. Her eyes were intense, desperate. She's all that matters. I looked at the girl, still drowsy but listening. She'd heard her sister planning for failure. Heard it too many times. I promise. But it won't come to that. It better not. Lyara's attempt at a smile didn't reach her eyes. I'd miss you. Same. We moved. The tunnel entrance was hidden behind cargo containers, a maintenance hatch that most people didn't know existed. I pried it open, checked inside. Dark, cramped, but empty, clear. I climbed down, helped Sera, then Lyara. The hatch closed above us, sealing us in darkness broken only by emergency lighting strips. The tunnels ran for hundreds of meters beneath the docks, connecting all the bays. My map showed Bay 23 was about 10 minutes away if we moved carefully. We started forward, boots echoing softly on metal grating. Halfway there, we heard voices ahead. Guards, at least 2 of them, sweeping the tunnels. I held up a hand, stopping our group. We pressed against the wall, weapons ready. The voices grew louder, closer. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness. Nothing down here. One guard sounded bored. Waste of time. Commander's orders. Check every tunnel, every access point. They don't pay us enough for this. The beams swept past our position. I held my breath. Sera was absolutely still, trained by months of hiding. The guards moved past, continuing deeper into the tunnel system. We waited until their voices faded, then continued forward. Bay 23's access point was ahead, a ladder leading up to a hatch that opened directly into the cargo bay. I checked my chrono. 20 minutes until midnight. We climbed carefully. At the top, I pressed my ear against the hatch, listening. Sounds of activity, cargo being loaded. The normal pre-launch routine. I knocked softly. 3 quick, 2 slow, 1 quick. The hatch opened. Jax's scaled face appeared, his colors showing urgent orange. Quickly. Empire patrols are increasing. We have maybe 10 minutes before they lock down all launches. We climbed through. The cargo bay was organized chaos, containers being secured, systems being checked. Jax's crew worked with practiced efficiency. Your transportation is in container 47. He pointed to a large cargo unit. It's got life support, basic amenities, enough supplies for 3 days. Not comfortable, but safe. How do we breathe in a sealed container? Modified it myself. Air recyclers, temperature control, even a waste system. You'll survive. Lyara inspected the container. It's small. For 3 days. We'll manage. Thank you, Jax. Don't thank me until you're safe. He handed me a data stick. This has the coordinates for your transfer point in Korvax. My contact there will get you to the next ship. The information chip. I handed it to him. Everything you need is on there. Access codes, schedules, routes. Use it wisely. He pocketed the chip. And you keep your promise, Princess. Tell the truth about what they do. Count on it. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Emergency lockdown. All ships grounded until further notice. Jax's scales flashed red. They're shutting everything down. We need to launch now. Can you bypass the lockdown? For about 5 minutes before they realize what I've done. His crew was already moving to their stations. Get in the container. Now. We climbed inside. The space was tight. Maybe 3 meters by 3 meters, with supply crates secured to the walls and a small seating area. Sera looked around nervously. It's very small, like a cave. A cave that's taking us to freedom. I tried to sound reassuring. Just 3 days. The container door started to close. Jax's voice came through a speaker. Stay quiet, stay still. The Empire will scan us before allowing launch. Their sensors will read the container as cargo, nothing more. But if you make noise or movement, they'll detect life signs. The door sealed with a hiss. Darkness, then emergency lighting kicked in, casting everything in dim red. We heard the ship's engines powering up, felt the vibration through the deck. The next hour was tense silence. We sat in the cramped container, listening to sounds filtered through metal walls. Docking clamps releasing, engine thrust building, the peculiar sensation of gravity shifting as the ship lifted from the bay. Then voices, distorted but audible. Empire inspectors boarding for final checks. This is a scheduled freight run. Jax's voice, calm and professional. Manifest is complete, all cargo accounted for. We need to scan all containers. New protocols. Of course, take your time. Footsteps on the deck above us, moving systematically from container to container. The whine of scanning equipment. Sera pressed against Lyara, absolutely still. I could see her counting silently, a technique to stay calm. The scanner passed over our container. A moment of held breath, waiting for alarms, for discovery. The footsteps moved on. Manifest matches, scan results. You're cleared for departure. Safe travels, Jax. Thank you, Inspector. The inspectors left. Minutes later, the ship shuddered as main engines engaged. We were moving, accelerating, breaking free of the station's gravity. Through the container walls, I felt us turn, orient toward open space. Then the jump engines activated, that distinctive feeling of reality bending as we entered faster than light travel. We'd made it off Tarsus Station. Jax's voice came through the speaker. We're clear. You can relax. Well, as much as you can relax in the cargo container. There's water and ration packs in the supply crate. Try to sleep. 3 days isn't long, but it'll feel longer in there. The speaker clicked off. Lyara let out a breath she'd been holding. First step complete. Many more to go. I distributed ration packs and water. Not exactly luxury accommodations, but we'd survived worse in the past day. Sera ate quietly, then pulled out one of her data pads. Even here, cramped and exhausted, her mind needed occupation. What are you reading? I asked. Star charts. She showed me the display, calculating our route through Korvac's system. There are asteroid fields that could hide a ship if we need to avoid patrols. You're planning contingencies already? She looked at me with those old eyes. Lyara says always have a backup plan. The backup plan needs a backup plan. Smart advice. I glanced at Lyara. You've taught her well. I've taught her to survive. Not the same as teaching her to live. Someday, when this is over, she can learn the difference. The first day passed slowly. We took turns sleeping, keeping watch, even though there was nothing to watch for. The container's life support worked perfectly, but the air felt stale, recycled too many times. Psychological, probably, but real enough. Sera handled the confinement better than I expected. She'd spent months hiding in small spaces, learned to make peace with walls closing in. Lyara struggled more, pacing the tiny area, checking weapons she'd already checked, energy burning with nowhere to go. On the second day, Jax's voice returned. We're halfway to Korvax. No pursuit detected. Empire is searching near Tarsus, assuming you're still in that sector. Good news. How long before they realize we've left? Few more hours, maybe. By then, we'll be entering Korvax space. Harder for them to track us there. Multiple jump points, lots of traffic, easy to disappear. Thank you, Jax. Thank your friend Webb. He's the one who contacted me. We wouldn't have done this without him. The speaker clicked off again. Lyara looked at me. He's right. Without you, Sera and I would still be hiding on Tarsus, waiting to be caught. You'd have figured something out. Maybe. Her voice was quiet. But I'm glad I didn't have to. That evening, our second night in the container, Sera finally asked the question that had been building. Marcus, when we get to New Havens, what happens then? We find you a place to live. Somewhere safe. Somewhere you can go to school. Make friends. Be normal. I don't know how to be normal. You'll learn. Kids are adaptable. But what about Lyara? She stays with you. We both stay with you. Sera looked between us. Like a family? I glanced at Lyara. Her expression was carefully neutral, but something flickered in her eyes. Yeah, like a family. The girl smiled. First real smile I'd seen from her. I'd like that. She curled up with her blanket, closing her eyes. Within minutes, she was asleep. Lyara moved closer to me, her voice barely a whisper. You shouldn't make promises about the future. Too many variables, too many things that could go wrong. I know, but she needed hope. Hope gets people killed. So does despair. At least hope gives you a reason to fight. She was quiet for a moment. You really think we can make this work? Reaching New Havens, building a life there, being a family? I think we can try. That's all anyone can do. Try and hope it's enough. Lyara's hand found mine in the darkness. When I first saw you in that corridor, fighting those guards, I thought you were just another human who'd get himself killed, interfering in matters beyond his understanding. I'm good at exceeding expectations. You are. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Thank you, Marcus, for everything. Don't thank me yet. Still a long way to go. I know. But even if this all falls apart tomorrow, even if we don't make it, thank you for giving Sera a chance, for giving us both a chance. We sat in comfortable silence, listening to Sera's soft breathing, feeling the ship carry us toward an uncertain future. The third day arrived with turbulence. The ship shook, engines straining. Jax's voice came through, tense. We have a problem. Empire cruiser just dropped out of FTL behind us. They're hailing, demanding we stop for inspection. How did they find us? Don't know. Maybe tracked my ship's signature. Maybe got lucky. Either way, we have about 10 minutes before they're in firing range. Can you outrun them? Not in this freighter. They've got military engines. But I can get creative. What does that mean? It means, hold on. Things are about to get rough. The ship lurched violently. Sera tumbled against the wall. I caught her before she hit hard. Lyara braced herself. one hand on the container wall. Outside our metal box, I heard the engine pitch change, emergency maneuvers. The artificial gravity flickered, sending us floating for a moment before slamming back down. Jax was pushing the ship beyond safe limits. Another lurch, alarms blaring distantly. The Empire cruiser was firing, warning shots probably, trying to disable engines without destroying the cargo. They want us alive. Lyara checked her weapons. If they board, we fight. Against a full cruiser complement? We'll last maybe 2 minutes. Then we make those 2 minutes count. The ship shuddered again, harder this time. Something had hit us. Not a direct strike, but close. Jax's voice, strained. I'm taking us into the asteroid field. It's dense, dangerous, but it's our only chance. Hold on. The next few minutes were chaos. The ship twisted, dove, climbed, threading through space at speeds that made my stomach revolt. The container we huddled in became a tumbling nightmare. Supplies broke loose despite restraints, clattering around us. Sera cried out as we were thrown against the walls. I grabbed her, held tight, using my body to shield her from impacts. Lyara wedged herself in a corner, blade drawn like it could somehow help against physics. The ship's engines screamed protest. Metal groaned under stress it wasn't designed to handle. Through the walls, I heard explosions, distant but getting closer. The Empire cruiser was still firing, trying to force us out of the asteroid field. Jax was refusing, diving deeper into the chaotic maze of rock and ice. Then impact. Not a weapon strike, but collision. We'd clipped an asteroid, the sound like the universe screaming. The ship spun wildly. Emergency systems kicked in, trying to stabilize, failing. We're losing power. Jax's voice was barely audible through static. Main engine down, backup failing. I can't control the spin. We're going to crash. Where? There's a mining station ahead, abandoned years ago. If I can reach it, maybe we survive. Maybe isn't good odds. It's all we have. The spinning slowed gradually as Jax fought for control. Through the chaos, I felt us decelerating, felt the ship orient toward something solid. The final approach was rough, slamming through the station's damaged docking bay, tearing metal, shearing off pieces of the hull, then stillness. We'd stopped moving. The container had held together somehow, dented but intact. I checked Sera first. She was crying, scared but unhurt. Lyara had a cut above her eye, bleeding purple down her face, but nothing serious. We need to move. I forced the container door open. The cargo bay beyond was a disaster, containers torn open, supplies scattered everywhere. Jax appeared through the smoke, 2 of his 4 arms hanging useless, scales flickering pain colors. The Empire cruiser will be here in minutes. This station has old tunnels, maintenance passages that go deep. Hide there. What about you? I'll rig the ship's reactor to overload, make them think we died in the explosion. Buy you time to escape. That'll kill you. Probably. Jax's scales shifted to peaceful blue. But my daughter's gone. My wife left years ago. All I have is this ship and a chance to hurt the people who destroyed my family. Let me take it. We don't have time to argue. He pressed a data chip into my hand. Everything you need. Coordinates for the next contact, access codes, enough credits to get you to New Havens. Now go. Lyara gripped his shoulder with respect. Your daughter would be proud. I hope so. Tell people what they did. I will. We ran. Behind us, Jax was already working on the reactor, bypassing safeties, setting up a chain reaction that would vaporize the ship and half the station. The tunnels were exactly as he'd described, Maintenance passages carved into the asteroid itself. We went deep, found a junction point far from the docking bay, and waited. 10 minutes later, the explosion shook the entire station. Debris rained through corridors. The lights failed completely, leaving us in absolute darkness, broken only by emergency strips. Sera was crying quietly. Lyara held her close. I activated a glow stick, casting pale light across our faces. Hours passed. We heard the Empire search teams arrive, heard them sweeping the wreckage. They found Jax's ship destroyed, found organic matter in the debris, assumed we'd died in the crash. Assumed wrong, but we encouraged the assumption by staying silent and still. Eventually they left. We waited another day to be sure, then began moving through the station. It was massive, built during the mining boom decades ago, abandoned when the resources ran out. Entire sections sat empty, machinery rusting, air stale but breathable. We found an old habitat module with working life support. Not comfortable, but safe. We could rest, plan, figure out our next move. The data chip Jax gave us contained everything. Contact information for smugglers in 3 different systems, coordinates for safe houses, enough credits to buy passage multiple times over, a path to New Havens, indirect but viable. It would take 3 months instead of 2, but we'd survive. That night, after Sera finally fell asleep, Lyara and I sat in the observation room. Through cracked viewports, we could see the asteroid field stretching endlessly, beautiful in its chaos. Jax died for us. Her voice was flat. Because he believed his daughter's death should mean something. Because he saw a chance to strike back at the people who hurt her. I understand that. You blame yourself. For his choice? No. But I carry the weight of it. Everyone who's helped us, everyone who's risked everything, they do it because I asked. Because we asked, I corrected. I'm in this too, remember? Why? She turned to face me. Why are you really doing this, Marcus? You could have walked away at any point, still could. I thought about it. About all the reasons, all the justifications. But it came down to something simpler. Because when I look at Sera, I see a kid who deserves better than what the universe handed her. When I look at you, I see someone fighting impossible odds and refusing to quit. That matters to me. More than staying safe, more than avoiding trouble. You matter. Lyara's eyes glistened in the dim light. I've known you for 3 days. Feels longer. It does. She moved closer. If we survive this, if we make it to New Havens, what then? Then we figure out how to live instead of just survive. We find Sera a school. Find you work that doesn't involve killing people. Find me a shop where I can fix things. We build something normal. And us? What are we? I met her gaze. Whatever we want to be. No pressure, no expectations. Just 2 people who went through hell together and came out the other side. She kissed me. Different from before. Not desperate or stolen, but real. A promise of possibility. When we separated, she whispered, I'd like that. Same. The next morning, we began planning the journey. 3 months of careful travel, changing ships, using false identities, staying ahead of Empire search patterns. Sera studied the routes with her usual intensity, finding patterns and shortcuts in the data. The first leg would take us to a trading post in the Helix sector. From there, a freighter to the border worlds. Then finally, New Havens. It wouldn't be easy. The Empire would keep searching, keep hunting. But every day we survived, every system we crossed, we got farther from their reach. 1 week became 2. 2 became 4. We moved through the shadows of civilized space, ghosts that left no trail. Sera grew braver, asking questions, sometimes even laughing. Lyara relaxed incrementally, the constant tension in her shoulders easing. I discovered I was good at this, at planning routes, making contacts, finding the gaps in Empire coverage. Military training applied in reverse. 2 months in, we reached the border worlds. Space, where the Empire's authority was nominal at best. We were close now, so close to safety. New havens appeared on our sensors 3 weeks later. A colony world, green and blue, orbiting a stable star. Home to refugees from a dozen conflicts, protected by strict asylum laws and a defense grid that even the Empire respected. We made our final approach on a small transport, legitimate this time. No more hiding in cargo containers. As we descended through the atmosphere, Sera pressed against the viewport, watching clouds give way to cities and farmland. Is this it? Is this where we'll live? If you want to. I looked at Lyara. If we all want to. Lyara took her sister's hand, then mine. Yes, this is home. The transport touched down at the main spaceport. We disembarked into warm sunlight, real sunlight, not the artificial lighting of stations and ships. Sera tilted her face up, eyes closed, feeling it. People moved around us, busy with their own lives, not hunting us, not judging us. Just people. We processed through immigration easily. New havens didn't ask many questions of refugees. They provided temporary housing, work permits, education access for children, everything we needed to start over. That evening, in a small apartment that was ours, looking out at a city where we could walk freely, Sera asked one more question. Marcus, will the Empire ever stop looking for us? Honestly, probably not completely. But here, they can't touch you. Here, you're safe. She considered this. Good, because I'm tired of running. Me too. Lyara stood beside me at the window. We both are. I put my arm around her shoulders. Then we stop running and start living. 3 people from different worlds, thrown together by violence and chance, finding something unexpected. Family. Not the kind you're born into, but the kind you choose. The kind that matters most. Outside, New Havens glowed in the evening light. Somewhere out there, the Empire continued its hunt, but it was distant now, a threat that no longer controlled our lives. We'd made it. Against impossible odds, through danger and loss, we'd survived. And now, finally, we could begin to heal. The end. Some people say humans are weak, that we don't belong among the stars. Maybe that's true, but we're also stubborn enough to fight for strangers, brave enough to stand against empires, and foolish enough to believe that kindness matters. Sometimes, that's exactly what changes everything.